In sociology, the study of social control occupies a place of central importance. The existence and persistence of organized social life is not possible without some minimum degree of control over its members. Social control is needed for maintaining social order. What do we mean by social order? Social order refers to a system of people, relationships, and customs, all these together operating smoothly to accomplish the work of a society. No society can function effectively unless behavior can be predicted. Orderliness depends on a network of roles. The network of reciprocal rights and duties is kept in force through social control. In this lesson, we shall first focus on the meaning and nature of social control with the help of some definitions, including an examination of a few concepts which are closely related to social control. The discussion will be followed by a look at the goals and methods of social control. Then we will describe the various types of mechanism, means, and consequences of social control. Finally, we will also discuss the factors which limit the effectiveness of social control. Meaning and nature. The terms social control is broadly concerned with the maintenance of order and stability in society. It may be used in the limited sense of denoting the various specialized means employed to maintain order, such as courts, and constables. It is also used to categorize social institutions and their interrelations insofar as they contribute specifically to social stability. Example, legal, religious, political institutions, etc. Social control is one of the most fundamental subjects of sociological discussion. It arises in all discussions about the nature and causes of both stability and change. Definitions. Let us look at certain definitions of social control in order to know what is contained in the concept. Some definitions focus on the order aspect of social control. For instance, McIlroy on page 1985 define social control as the way in which the whole social order becomes consistently interlinked and maintains itself. Some others look at social control as the means by which society establishes and maintains order. Another set of definition emphasizes the aspect of conformity to norms and expectations of the group as the most important element in social control. The emphasis is on all those means and processes whereby a group or a society secures conformity of its member to its expectations. In other words, social control refers to those ways used by a society to bring its wayward members back into line. When we use the term social control, we are essentially referring to the processes and means which limit deviations from social norms. The main points that emerge from all these definitions about the meaning of social controls are: the term refers essentially to means and processes whereby certain goals are to be achieved. The two most important goals sought to be achieved by social control are conformity to norms and expectations of the group, maintenance of order in society. There is an element of influence, persuasion, or compulsion in control. The individual or a group is directed to act in a particular way. Conformity is expected or imposed irrespective of whether one likes it or not. The scope of social control is vast. It may operate at different levels. One group may seek to control another group. A group may control its own members, or an individual may seek to control another individual. The scope of control ranges from the management of deviance to social planning. Here, we discuss some concepts which are closely related to social control. Self-control implies that imposition of external control is not required to compel the individual to do the right thing in a given situation. In this sense, self-control supplements the mechanisms of social control in producing conformity. But it should also be remembered that self-control itself originates in social control. For it is the processes of social control which instill a sense of inner control in the individual. The relation between self-control and social control can be understood in the following manner. The group applies some sanctions, punishment, etc. on an individual for indulging in deviant behavior. But many persons are capable of visualizing the consequences of their action in advance and restrain themselves. In this sense, self-control is also a form of social control. From this point of view, we can also maintain that both self-control and social control are closely related to yet another process, socialization, to which we now turn. Socialization. Socialization is the process by which an individual from childhood learns and acquires the cultural characteristics of one's group. He is thus able to participate as a member of the group of society. In childhood, one's parents, for instance, enforce their expectations on the child by a system of reward, punishment, and discipline. One also acquires many traits by observing the behavior of others and by anticipating the consequences of and reaction to one's own conduct in different situations. In this way, one develops self-control, a sense of right and wrong. Through the learning process, we begin largely to conform to group expectation, very often without any conscious attempt being made on our part to do so. You can cite several examples from your daily life in which you perform many minor and major activities which you are supposed to do, without even being aware of why you are doing so. Thus, socialization contributes significantly to bringing about effective social control in society. It is only when the process of socialization fails that the individual may begin to act against the expectations of the group. In that case, imposition of sanctions becomes necessary. Social control also helps in the process of socialization. Insofar as socialization involves learning process, a system of reward and punishment is required in accomplishing it. Thus, social control and socialization are mutually related, supplementing each other towards the ultimate objective of ensuring conformity to group norms and maintenance of social order. Importance of social control. Social control is very essential for every society. Without social control, society as well as individual cannot exist. Therefore, the need of social control is very essential. Social control is necessary for the following reasons. To maintain the old order. It is necessary for every society or group to maintain its social order, and this is possible only when its members behave in accordance with that social order. An important objective of social control is not to maintain the old order. Family helps in the realization of this objective. The aged members of the family enforce their ideas over the children. To establish social unity. Without social control, social unity would be a mere dream. Social control regulates behavior in accordance with established norms, which brings uniformity of behavior and leads to unity among the individuals. The family maintains its unity because its members behave in similar manner in accordance with family norms. To regulate or control individual behavior. No two men are alike in their attitudes, ideas, interests, and habits. Even the children of the same parents do not have the same attitudes, habits, and interests. Men believe in different religions, dress differently, eat different food, marry in different ways, and have different ideologies. There are so much differences in the ways of living of the people that at every moment there is the possibility of clash between them. In modern times, this possibility has all the more increased because man has become too self-centered. Social control is necessary to protect social interests and satisfy common need. If social control is removed and individual is left to behave freely, society would be reduced to state of jungle. To provide social sanction. Social control provides social sanction to the social ways of behavior. There are numerous folk ways, modes, and customs prevalent in society. Every individual has to follow them. If an individual violates the social norms, he is compelled through social control to observe them. Thus, social control provides sanction to social norms. To check cultural maladjustment, society is subject to change. New invention, new discoveries, and new philosophies continue to take birth in society. The individual has to adjust his behavior to the change taking place in society. But all the individuals cannot adjust themselves to the new conditions. Some become progressive, others remain conservative. When a person from the village moves into the city, he comes across new cultural standards, and it is possible that he may wrongly adjust himself to the new cultural environment. He may become a slave of passions, visit bar and pass nights in nightclubs. During this transitional period, in his social control, it is very necessary lest he should become a deviant. Goals of social control. From many of the definitions of social control, which we have reviewed earlier, it becomes clear that social control is supposed to achieve several important goals. Some of these goals are conformity. One of the aims of social control is to bring about conformity in society. Social control mechanisms are employed to control, check or prevent deviant behavior. As we shall see in Unit 31, deviant behavior is dysfunctional to society in several ways. The objective of social control is to safeguard the group against such dysfunctional consequences of deviant behavior. Uniformity. A related objective of social control is to produce uniformity of behavior. This does not mean that all the members have to behave alike. It only implies that there should be some coordinations among the several interrelated activities performed by different people. For example, movement of traffic on a road will be impossible if some traffic rules, keeping to the left, etc., are not followed by all road users. A game cannot be played if uniform rules are not followed by all teams and its members. In every sphere of social life, some uniformity of behavior is not only expected but is also essential. Solidarity. This is a very important objective of social control. As McIlroy and Page, 1985, have noted, social control ensures order and solidarity in society. Society is constituted of several parts and units. These different parts have to maintain an equilibrium with each other and with the whole to ensure social solidarity and stability. The mechanisms of social control are directed at maintaining this equilibrium among the parts and between the parts and the whole. Continuity. social control is also necessary to maintain and preserve the accumulated culture of the group. By compelling or inducing individuals to conform to the prevailing norms and values, continuity of these cultural characteristics is ensured. For example, when parents insist on their children following family customs or practices, their continuity over generations is sought to be assured. Social change. Social control is employed not only to conserve the existing patterns, but also sometimes to induce desired social changes. In our country, many methods of persuasion, inducement, and compulsion are used to bring about desired changes in some social customs, attitudes, and behavior. Prescribing the age of marriage, two-child family norm, removal of untouchability, dowry, etc. are some of the examples of attempts to bring about social change through various means of social control. Methods of social control. Methods of social control can be broken into two types, informal and formal. The informal type of control is casual, unwritten. It lacks regulation, scheduling, and organization. The informal types consist of casual praise, ridicule, gossip, and ostracism. The formal type is codified, scheduled, organized, or regulated in some way, as in promotion, demotion, satire, monetary payment, mass media, etc. We now discuss each method in detail. Informal social control. This is also known as primary social control, as it is more effective in what sociologists call primary groups. The primary groups are relatively more homogeneous, small, compact, and intimate groups. Members are tied to each other and to the group by feelings of personal loyalty. A family, playgroups, neighborhood, rural community, and a simple primitive society are some examples of such compact social groupings. In such societies, every individual is constantly surrounded by very potent and subtle mechanisms of social control. Within a family, the individual is under the control of his or her parents and other family members. Family, in turn, is under the control of neighborhood or kinship groups, and these in turn are under the watchful control of the whole society. Thus, no individual or group can be free from social control. We may say that in such social settings, social control exists like a set of concentric circles surrounding individuals and groups. The important characteristics of this type of control are that it is informal, spontaneous, and unplanned. Usually, the group shows its disapproval to the deviating member by ridicule, gossip, opprobrium, criticism, ostracism, and sometimes application of physical force and coercion. Since the group is compact, ties are strong, members are personally known, and the individual has little choice of an alternative group's membership. He cannot afford to ignore the disapproval of his groups, and so he has to conform to his group's expectations. Such methods of control are effective not only in primitive societies in which primary groups and relations abound, but are also effective in modern complex societies such as ours, particularly within secondary groups, such as voluntary associations, clubs, and trade unions, etc., where such informal controls are effective to achieve the goals of the organization. Have you ever experienced social ostracism in your own or in the life of someone whom you know? Write an essay on the events and relate into the notion of social control in my society in about 2 pages. Share your essay with those of other students at your study center. Formal social control. This is also known as secondary social control, as it is usually found in larger secondary social groups. Modern complex societies such as ours are good examples of such social groupings. In such societies, we find a large number of groups which are characterized by impersonal relations and are oriented to certain specific objectives. A political party, trade union, factory, office, students' association may be some examples. In these secondary groupings, relations among members are more formal, less intimate. Their relationships mean that informal controls such as ridicule, criticism, or gossip do not operate here. It is a well-known fact in sociology that informal groups do develop within such formal organizations. In a university or a college, certain cliques, informal controls are more effective. The point is that such informal groups which develop within formal organizations may either inhibit or facilitate formal secondary controls and affect the performance of the organization. Generally speaking, in secondary groupings, informal controls take their place. Both positive sanctions in the form of reward, honor, and negative sanctions by way of punishments, expulsion, etc. are used in this form of control. In the larger society, such controls are exemplified by law, police, courts, prisons, and other agencies of law enforcement. Apart from these, more visible forms, formal control mechanisms also include well-organized propaganda through mass media to engineer social control in society. In large secondary groupings, informal controls are weakened due to growing anonymity, mobility, and conflicting norms and values. Intimacy declines and members do not have personal or emotional feelings towards each other. They frequently move from one place to another or from one group to another. Thus, they can easily escape from the controls of some particular group. Moreover, in a complex society, there is always a conflict of norms and values of different groups. One group may approve a conduct which may be disapproved by some other group. Under such circumstances, resource is ultimately taken to the formal agencies of social control. Conclusion. Social control refers generally to societal and political mechanisms or processes that regulate individual and group behavior, leading to conformity and compliance to the rules of a given society, state, or social group. Many mechanisms of social control are cross-cultural, if only in the control mechanisms used to prevent the establishment of cause or anomaly. Clarification needed. Some theorists, such as EMRC, refer to this form of control as regulation. Sociologists identify two basic forms of social controls. Social control theory began to be studied as a separate field in the early 20th century. The means to enforce social control can be either formal or informal. Sociologist Edward A. Rose argued that belief systems exert a greater control on human behavior than laws imposed by government, no matter what form the beliefs take.